Jesse and I met online. It was as if I'd found my soulmate. And I hated knowing that someone I felt so connected to, I could never really be with.
Wait, I thought you said you weren't gay.
I'm not.
You kiss like you, right?
I don't know what I am.
I think you're confused. I've been around straight women before, and I know this ends badly.
Danny was the kind of woman that women aspired to be. It took everything not to tell her how I felt.
What are you doing? Oh, you're too afraid to?
It took me a year to build up the courage to ask Anika out. And the second I did, disaster.
You really like me.
I think you're amazing.
Her name was Sarah. She hired me for in-house visits, and there was something about her that it drew me in. It was the softness of her skin, the warmness of her heart. Sometimes that's all we ever get. Just one perfect afternoon.
Scene 3 of A Lesbian Romance 2, centered on Bree and Anika, offers perhaps the film's most quietly radical meditation on vulnerability, failure, and the radical hope it takes for queer women to keep choosing connection even when everything seems to go wrong. And through its gentle, self-aware narration, it reframes what might otherwise be played for embarrassment into a deeply humane exploration of how love often arrives, not through perfection, but through patience, compassion, and the willingness to see another person fully even at their most flustered and undone. Because from the outset, Bree names the date as the worst first date of my life, immediately puncturing the myth that romance must begin smoothly in order to be meaningful, a myth that disproportionately burdens queer women who already feel pressure to represent their relationships as exemplary or worth it in a society that scrutinizes them for legitimacy. The disaster of the evening, the declined card, the awkwardness, the spiral of nerves, is not treated as a moral failing but as a collision between longing and fear, the result of a year spent building up the courage to ask Anika out, which itself speaks volumes about the emotional labor queer women often undertake in silence, rehearsing rejection long before it happens. Internalizing the belief that desire must be carefully timed, justified, and made palatable, Bree's panic and self-criticism are painfully recognizable, especially to viewers who have ever felt that asking for love already feels like asking for too much. And the film's choice to let Bree narrate her own humiliation with honesty rather than self-mockery invites empathy rather than judgment. What distinguishes this story, however, is Anika's response, which consistently resists the punitive logic that so often governs dating narratives, particularly for women, because instead of withdrawing or framing Bree's missteps as red flags, Anika chooses generosity, reframing the night not as a failure, but as an experience shaped by circumstances rather than character. And this generosity is not naive but intentional, a worldview rooted in her ability to find the good in the bad, a line that resonates as both a personality trait and a survival strategy cultivated by many queer women who have learned that rigidity often leads to isolation. When Bree leaves Anika alone at the restaurant due to sudden illness, a moment that could easily cement shame or finality, the film instead pauses, allowing space for accountability without condemnation. And Anika's refusal to yell or assign blame becomes a profound statement about emotional safety, modeling a way of being with another person that prioritizes care over ego. This matters deeply in a cultural context where queer women are often taught, explicitly or implicitly, that they must accept scarcity in love, that they should be grateful for any attention and wary of asking for patience. And Anika's insistence on a second chance disrupts that narrative by asserting that connection is worth effort. Even when it is inconvenient or imperfect, the shift to Bree's apartment for the next meeting is symbolically significant, not only because it removes the pressure of public performance, but because it places the encounter within Bree's own space, however small and cramped, reframing intimacy as something that grows in environments shaped by authenticity rather than spectacle. And Anika's delight in the apartment, calling it perfect precisely because of its limitations, becomes an act of recognition, affirming Bree's life as it is rather than as she fears it is lacking. Their conversation about positivity is telling, as Anika's optimism is not portrayed as denial but as a conscious choice to focus on presence, on the fact that she gets to spend the afternoon with someone she finds beautiful, a perspective that gently challenges Bree's tendency to catastrophize and invites viewers to consider how often fear of future failure robs us of present connection. The gift of the amethyst necklace, framed as holding positive energy, operates less as a mystical device than as a tangible expression of care, a way of saying I want this to begin well without demanding guarantees. And Bree's reaction, surprise, gratitude, and a dawning realization that she is genuinely liked, captures a moment many queer women recognize: the quiet shock of being chosen without conditions, of realizing that desire does not always have to be earned through flawlessness. The film wisely resists turning this into a grand romantic epiphany, instead allowing doubt to linger as Bree wonders what it means if everything feels like a struggle at the start. A question that echoes broader anxieties about queer relationships being too hard, a stereotype often used to delegitimize them, and Anika's response reframes the issue by separating circumstance from substance, insisting that while the dates were chaotic, the person was not, a distinction that affirms Bree's worth beyond her performance. This distinction is crucial for women viewers who have been taught to equate lovability with composure, competence, and emotional containment, and the scene's power lies in its refusal to punish Bree for her nervousness or messiness, instead presenting those qualities as part of what makes the connection real. Across the film's 4 stories, Scene 3 stands out for its focus on gentleness as a form of resistance, challenging the idea that queer love must be dramatic or transgressive to be meaningful, and instead highlighting how radical it can be to simply keep showing up with kindness. Society's discomfort with seeing women express love for each other often stems from the fact that such love exposes the emotional depth and mutuality that patriarchal narratives prefer to trivialize or fetishize. And by portraying Bree and Anika's bond as rooted in empathy rather than conquest, the film undermines those narratives, offering a vision of queer intimacy that is neither sensationalized nor sanitized. Symbolically, Bree represents the internalized fear of being too much or not enough, the voice that whispers that one mistake will confirm unworthiness, while Anika embodies the possibility of being met with grace, a reminder that love can be expansive rather than conditional. Their interaction mirrors real-world pressures on queer women to hide their anxiety, to present a curated version of themselves to avoid rejection. And Scene 3 gently argues that authenticity, even when awkward, is a stronger foundation than perfection. The closing reflection on whether it was the energy of the necklace or simply 2 people destined to connect serves not as a literal question, but as an acknowledgement of mystery, honoring the fact that love often defies rational explanation and does not need to be justified by fate or symbolism to be valid. For LGBTQ+ audiences seeking authenticity, this story offers reassurance that disaster does not preclude depth, that connection can survive embarrassment, illness, and missteps, and that being seen with compassion can be transformative. For women more broadly, it speaks to the universal longing to be met where one is, to have fear and hope coexist without cancellation, and to believe that even after the worst first impression, something profound can still grow. In centering this truth without spectacle or voyeurism, A Lesbian Romance 2 affirms that becoming visible is not always about bold declarations, but about allowing oneself to be imperfectly present, trusting that the right person will see, not the disaster, but the human being underneath, and choose her anyway.